Welcome to the second episode of FHS Season Tickets. I'm Michael.
And I'm Nick.
The girls soccer team got their first victory of the season over Cloverleaf 2-1 over the weekend.
Boys and girls cross country race last weekend, and there was actually 4 top 10 finishes by Connor Cobain, Ellie, Peter, and Paul.
And also the volleyball team got a big win over Buckeye at home to start conference play, but then they lost to Brookside.
And lastly, girls tennis beat Elyria last weekend.
And the Fairview football team lost to Vermilion 35-13. They take on Bay on Friday. And what an opening weekend of college football,
folks. It was crazy, Mike.
Some huge upsets going on. South Alabama beating Mississippi State 21-20. Mississippi State had a chip shot field goal at the end to win the game, but the kicker did hit it off the upright after South Alabama did miss 2 field goals off the upright, so the upright was getting hit a lot of times in that game. And also Wisconsin got a massive upset over LSU 16-14. Brandon Harris looked really bad in this game, and Wisconsin just really controlled the game. They had a ton of time of possession, didn't let Leonard Fournette get going, and even though he did have a pretty solid game, had over 100 yards rushing and a good amount of receptions, they were still able to limit LSU's offense and get the upset.
Yeah, all those games were crazy, Mike, but now let's get into Notre Dame, Texas, the craziest game of the weekend. Man, I've been getting dogged all day by all my peers. Notre Dame took the loss last weekend. It was pretty bad. Texas looks like a completely different team than last year. Last year, Notre Dame looked like they were a man amongst boys. This year, Texas looked like it was a whole new team. Their running back is legit. Their offensive line and defensive line are very good. And Notre Dame just couldn't find a way to stop the big boys up front, and they couldn't find a way to tackle. That was the end of the game.
Yeah, Texas definitely looked like a fantastic team. They had the 2-quarterback system, which didn't work for anybody else all weekend, but it did work with Texas. I think that's probably a factor because Swoops isn't really a quarterback. He's basically a wildcat. So if they work it like every single analyst has compared the 2 Texas quarterback system to the Tim Tebow system that Florida had in 2006, and I kind of like that comparison, but just everybody's making it, so it's pretty obvious. Number 1, Alabama looked dominant against Texas. Jalen Hurts had a fantastic game leading the Crimson Tide offense, and the Alabama defense looked dominant against the USC offense. They couldn't move the ball at all. A good amount of turnovers, and Alabama just looked like on a whole nother level compared to anyone else in the country week 1. They look absolutely fantastic, and the Crimson Tide are definitely looking like the early favorites to repeat as national champions. Nick, what happened when the runner-up of the national title last year, Clemson, did against Alabama's main rival, Auburn?
Yeah, Clemson was looking shaky at the start even. Auburn played a pretty good game. There were some mistakes there, and they were still even able to hang with the, like Mike said, the national title opponents to Alabama last year. Clemson, I believe they'll be better. Deshaun Watson didn't look as dominant. Even Deshaun Kaiser, you could even debate, outplayed him last weekend. So we'll see what happens. Look shaky at the start. They'll definitely improve.
Yeah, Auburn actually looked pretty solid. If you told an Auburn fan before the game they would get 2 Hail Marys to win the game against Clemson, I'm sure they would be pretty happy.
You could argue that's luck, though.
Yeah, you could argue that's luck, but also Gus Malzahn really was making some noob moves, switching the quarterbacks. And also Dabo Swinney not kicking the field goal in the 4th quarter really didn't make much sense to me. A lot of questionable coaching moves in this game, and also in week 1 in general, a lot of questionable coaching decisions with the 2 quarterback systems like we mentioned before. But Georgia took on North Carolina, and Nick Chubb looked absolutely fantastic in his first game back from a knee injury that he did suffer last season. And Jacob Eason did not get the start. It was actually Grayson Lambert, but he came to the game very early. He went 8 for 12, had 130 yards, looked very poised, and did not turn the ball over, which is huge for the Bulldogs. If they don't turn the ball over and get Nick Chubb 40 carries, they're going to win a lot of football games this year.
Yeah, now we're going to head into the Houston game. Houston looked dominant, as I said. The Greg Ward Jr. looked very good. He's going to be improving off of his last year's season, where he really was a breakout star. Defensive line did great, like I thought they would. Ed Oliver is just really good, and Tom Herman overall is just a fantastic coach in college football.
Yeah, the stats are actually pretty even, but Houston just dominated on the special teams. The offensive and defensive stats were about even total yards. Houston had about 20 more, I do believe, about even pass and rush yards. But special teams, Houston was absolutely fantastic. They had a kick 6 similar to the Auburn versus Alabama game a couple years ago. Really cool, those kick 6. Those are some of the coolest plays in college football.
And you like to see how high Houston's going to rise in the polls. I bet Houston fans are going to be really shocked and surprised at how high they're going to climb this year.
Yeah, Houston is going to definitely be probably around 7th or 8th in the AP poll.
I'm thinking
this
5th.
upcoming. You're thinking 5th?
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty bold prediction.
Oh, but that Houston prediction was bold too, and guess what happened?
It did come through for you. But another Texas team that got a massive win is Texas A&M over UCLA. Josh Rosen didn't look very good throughout the whole game, but surprisingly, he did have over 350 passing yards. They went 26 for 46, so not even a bad game for Josh Rosen, but for his standards, he was definitely limited throughout the first 3 quarters. UCLA did storm back, and they did send the game into overtime, but in overtime, UCLA dropped a sure touchdown pass, which would have sent it into double overtime, and Texas A&M held on to get the victory at home. Nick, what happened in the last top 25 matchup of the week?
The last college football game of the weekend, Florida State and Ole Miss. It was quite a show. Ole Miss came out blazing start. They got up very high. I forget the score. I think it was 28-3 maybe. And Florida State just came back second half. They showed a fantastic second half. The freshman quarterback, actually, DeAndre Francis, he did very well. A lot of throws, actually. 52 passes, I believe. That's very high. But, I mean, anything for the win. Dalvin Cook, like 180 all-purpose yards. Great night for him, but I definitely think Florida State can improve off this in the future.
Yeah, Florida State looked horrible the first half. It was like 2 different worlds, the first half and late second quarter and the second half. I'm going to be talking about freshman quarterbacks in general later on in the show.
LSU offensive lineman Josh Butte got suspended 1 game after a cheap shot against a Wisconsin player after a Wisconsin player caught an interception from a terrible throw by Brandon Harris. Christian, what are your thoughts on the 1 game suspension, enough, not enough, or too much?
I think the suspension they're kind of overdoing it, because I feel like it should just be a half, like 1/2 suspension, because it's the end of the game. LSU has held to high expectations. The lineman is doing a great job blocking. The QB has so much time to just get the throw off, and he throws the worst pass I've ever seen. I think the QB should be suspended for making the offensive lineman be in that situation. Anyways, he was frustrated. I understand it. It was the first game of the season. If it was like in the middle of the season he did that, I understand like more of a suspension. But what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration, but that's just a real boneheaded play in my opinion. I believe he deserves that 1 game suspension. You don't do that. I know that you guys are losing and you're ranked number 5. You're expected to win that game, but I just feel that that's not warranted at all. Bonehead decision. I don't think that's good. Now, Mike, what are your thoughts?
I think that the 1 game suspension was the right amount of suspension for this play. Obviously, you have to fault the Wisconsin player somewhat because he is running towards the end zone. Granted, he does have his hand up, so it probably should realize that he was down. But he does have his hand up and he is running towards the end zone, so maybe the LSU player was thinking he was still alive, because you never know if the LSU offensive lineman was like looking at the ground on the guy who was blocking or not looking at the play. But still, I don't think you can do that. He definitely let out his frustration on Brandon Harris, on the wrong person. He should have lit up Brandon Harris, like you said on the last play. Just a horrible throw by him. You just need to throw the ball away. But I think the 1 game suspension is the right amount for the hit that was placed. It's basically a targeting suspension, and targeting is 1 game. So I think that it's definitely the right call.
The SEC had many bad losses in 1 week. Kentucky blew a 25-point lead. Missouri got dominated by West Virginia. Mississippi State lost to South Alabama, among others. Is this the start of SEC decline, Nick?
I feel that the SEC is just going to become more top-heavy than it has been in the past seasons. I don't think it's quite a decline. This happens usually every year, but I do believe Alabama is going to be at the top as usual. I believe Ole Miss, still, even after losing to Florida State, is going to be good. I just don't think that they're just going to have the type of depth they had with Mississippi State. Texas A&M will be decent. I just don't think that they'll be as parity in the SEC as great as they have been in the past. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with you, Nick. The SEC is still the best conference in college football from top to bottom, but the bottom this year is as bad as all the other conferences in college football. We basically learned week 1 that teams like South Carolina, Missouri, Mississippi State, and also Kentucky are going to struggle to win many football games this year. They're just not very good football teams, so we just have to come to the fact that they're at the bottom of the SEC. The middle and top of the SEC still got 3 top 25 wins, so the top of the SEC is still doing fine, but I think we realize that there are about 4 teams in the SEC that really just aren't very good this season.
Yeah, this won't be a legendary. This won't be a legendary conference this year, as it has been in the past, with Missouri doing well and Mississippi State doing well.
No, Christian, do you have any other thoughts on this topic?
I'm with you guys. I'm gonna keep it short. I just think outside of the powerhouses like Alabama, they're just all the other teams just aren't that good.
Philadelphia Eagles traded away Sam Bradford to the Minnesota Vikings for a first-round pick, a fourth-round pick after the Vikings quarterback Teddy Bridgewater got injured his first year. What are your thoughts on this trade, Michael?
I think that this is a great trade for multiple teams. I first think it's a great trade for the Philadelphia Eagles, getting back a first-round pick for Sam Bradford, a quarterback who is as bad as Sean Hill, most analytics have, and also it's a great trade for the Cleveland Browns. The Philadelphia Eagles were going to be a bad football team this year with Sam Bradford, but with Carson Wentz, I cannot see that football team winning more than 5 games, so I definitely believe this is a good trade for the Cleveland Browns. Having the Philadelphia Eagles first-round pick, I think we could see 2 top 5 picks for the Cleveland Browns in the 2017 NFL Draft. It could be absolutely fantastic for the Browns. Get a guy like Myles Garrett, Deshaun Watson, Leonard Fournette, among others. Christian, what are your thoughts about the trade?
I think the Eagles should be fined or something. They should be charged with something. This is like.
Is it robbery?
God, this is robbery. They just mugged them straight up. You got trash for a first round and a fourth round pick, so that's crazy. I mean, Sam Bradford did play kind of well in preseason, but it's preseason.
Yeah, I agree with both of these guys' statements. I just don't think that Michael was truly right about the Carson Wentz. There might be potential though. You're playing with potential, and also I believe just thoughts adding in the 2017 NFL Draft is going to be loaded. So I believe that the two first round picks that the Browns are getting, that's going to look very nice. That's going to look very nice indeed.
If I could say something, I believe they did this trade because they don't believe Teddy Bridgewater will be back for the next NFL season.
Yeah, that could be a potential career ender, and might never be the same player, kind of like Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
But Teddy Bridgewater was never at the level that Derrick Rose was, the MVP of the league. But still, it could really affect his career, and his numbers could decline.
That's a sad injury for Minnesota. They were looking at like a potential really good team in the NFL, and now everything's gone. Everything's ruined.
And now we're going into the final thing I am going to be talking about on the show. It's going to be something that I am just going to be doing by myself, and I am going to be talking about freshman quarterbacks in week 1. I want to do something maybe once a week, one every other show, which would be once a week, of just me talking about something that I want to talk about, just face-to-face, no highlights, no video, just me talking about something that I did notice in the college football week or NFL week or also NBA or college basketball. And this week I noticed some fantastic play by freshman quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts had a fantastic game for Alabama. He did just enough for the Alabama offense to still be able to run very smoothly. He doesn't have to do that much. He just has to hand the ball off to their great running backs and also let their defense control the field position, and then it's just really easy for him if he plays smart, and Alabama's going to win a lot of football games if he keeps playing smart. Jacob Eason was also fantastic. He didn't get the start, but very early on he was put into the game. Like I mentioned earlier on in the show, he went 8 for 12, 130 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions, and he handed the ball off a lot to Nick Chubb, and when he was in the game, he forced North Carolina to play 2 safeties deep, while Grayson Lambert only forced North Carolina to play 1 safety deep. As you can tell, North Carolina was definitely more worried about Jacob Eason throwing the deep ball and hurting them deep. Another freshman quarterback who had a fantastic game was Shane Buechele. He led Texas along with Tyrone Swoops to a fantastic victory over Notre Dame. That was a very high-level football game. Some great throws being made. Some poor coverage, you could say, but still, some great quarterback play from both sides. Shane Buechele looks definitely like a future star, and I'm definitely looking forward to him playing throughout the rest of the season and seeing how he does against the Big 12 defenses that are known to give up a lot of passing yards. And finally, in the Monday night game, Deondre Francois looked absolutely fantastic in the second half. After a very shaky first half, he even went over to Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo Fisher looked so mad at him. I'll actually play the clip right now of Deondre Francois and Jimbo Fisher's exchange. But after that, he was just a different quarterback. He was absolutely fantastic. Maybe it was Jameis Winston hyping him up at halftime, but he was just fantastic. And that will wrap it up for this episode of FHS Season Tickets. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe for more FHS Season Ticket videos. We have a huge announcement and also thing going on in the next episode tomorrow, so make sure to be tuned for that.